Since the coronavirus pandemic began, the music of Holy Trinity Catholic Church has come virtually.
We have a prayer service on Zoom.
Father Kevin Gillespie is planning for when it's safe to reopen the doors to this historic Washington church, shuttered since March.
It's frustrating because, particularly when we have a crisis like this, people go to church, and Zoom doesn't do it.
When and how the choir comes back to these seats depends on what his task force decides, using recommendations from the CDC.
That task force is charged with the responsibility of following the CDC, with all the minutiae.
That minutiae is the CDC's interim guidance for communities of faith for minimizing spread of the virus. When the CDC first released its guidance for faith communities, it said, consider suspending or at least decreasing use of a choir, musical ensembles, and congregant singing, chanting, or reciting during services or other programming if appropriate within the faith tradition. And the act of singing may contribute to transmission of COVID-19, possibly through emission of aerosols. Using the Wayback Machine Internet Archive site, we were able to track changes made to the CDC guidance. We found the CDC removed the singing warnings the night after posting them with no explanation. Also gone, recommendations to have more virtual activities and drive-in options at places of worship to avoid spreading the virus.
Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease.
Yet Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's top infectious disease expert, told us churches should consider suspending the use of a choir. He wanted to be clear, choirs are only a danger if they're in a place with high rates of infection.
It's not one size fits all. When you're dealing with a place that has a considerable number of cases, my recommendation still holds that the choirs should refrain from singing. When you sing and you project your voice, that aerosols of the virus come out.
It could be confusing to people that hear you say that, but then they look at the CDC recommendations and that's not in there.
Well, that's for other people to figure out.
The CDC did not respond to our questions about why it deleted the live music warnings. Fauci told us he doesn't know either.
I don't know what went on, so I prefer to refrain from commenting on that.
The Washington Post, citing two unnamed White House officials, said the CDC's initial guidance for faith communities had not yet been approved by the administration. President Trump has repeatedly called for places of worship to reopen, calling them essential. Dr. Tom Frieden led the CDC under President Obama. We asked him, could there be a scientific reason to remove recommendations to consider limiting choir use in a pandemic?
I can't imagine a scientific reason for that, because the fact is that choirs singing, particularly indoors, particularly without a mask, may greatly increase the risk, does greatly increase the risk that COVID would spread.
The CDC still recommends choirs practice social distancing as circumstances and faith traditions allow. And it still has posted to its site a study about dozens infected with the virus in March after a single choir practice in Washington state. 2 died. Father Gillespie is still confident he can balance the health of his members with the benefit
Holy, holy, holy.
of music.
The joy that'll be in this place and in the hearts of the people. I'm filled up because I know I have the privilege to be there and hear them.
Alleluia, alleluia.
Patrick Terpstra, Newsy, Washington.